personally ranks sustainability and enjoyment and effort so highly that his high score there does boost his overall grade from me.
I don't understand, Jeff. Sustainability. Training 96% of your sets to failure. How is that sustainable? Coach Greg, in today's video, I found a bigger fan of Sam Sulek than even Coach Greg. Everyone knows I've done a number of videos on Sam Sulek, really like his videos, finally met him at the Arnold Classic, was happy to hear that he liked my videos. Jeff Nippard has watched every single Sam Sulek video and tracked all of his training, every single set that he's done in the last year. Absolutely amazing, incredible. Great job, Jeff Nippard. And so he analyzed his training, his techniques, and said, is this optimal? Because we all love Sam Sulek. He's literally the biggest fitness personality in the world right now, even more popular than Chris Bumstead. I think it's important to know, is he giving us quality information? Should we in fact train like him? Should we eat like him? And so let's get right into it.
Interestingly, only 11% of Sam's total training was for his quads, yet 25% went to his triceps.
And so right off the back, you can clearly see Sam is overtraining his triceps in comparison to other body parts. A quarter of his sets, 25%, are in fact his triceps. While a larger muscle group with more muscles, quadriceps 4 muscles, triceps is 3, biceps is at 2, in case you're wondering, only 11%. And considering that the quads are bigger than the triceps, let's face it, if you took the triceps, it's not all that much muscle. In comparison to the quads, a lot more muscle. Would it not make more sense he would train the quads more and train the triceps less? Well, it depends. Every one of us is unique. I know it sounds cliche, we're all special, but in reality, we are. Perhaps Sam, when he trains his quads, perhaps they're very sore. And if he did the same amount of sets doing his quads as he was doing his triceps, he would be overtrained, wouldn't be able to walk, and his quads would in fact get smaller. Or it is possible that he's overtraining his triceps and undertraining his quads, and that if he added more sets to his quads and fewer to his triceps, both would get bigger. The problem is we just don't know. Every body is different, but it stands to reason that a body part such as the back is composed of several different muscles. You're going to debate me. Biceps too. You can see the split in the bicep. Poke your finger right here, you can see a hole. There's a split in the middle. That is all you're training when you're training your biceps, those two little muscles. And so when you train your back, there's several different muscles. You have, for example, your lats, your traps, your rhomboids, your teres major. And so these are several different muscles that need to be targeted in different ways to optimize muscular hypertrophy. And so seeing as he does more sets for triceps than the entirety of the back, I think he could be training suboptimally. And so would it not make sense to back off perhaps a little bit, take off 5 to 10% of the exercise he does for his triceps and add those to his quads, hamstrings, and so on, and additional exercises for his back? However, perhaps he trained triceps less frequently in the past, did fewer sets, and he had no growth whatsoever. And then once he added additional sets, volume, intensity, he then saw his triceps grow faster than last time. And how do we know he never did more sets for quads in the past? But he was too sore, he couldn't walk, couldn't train, wasn't making any growth. And so just because it says on paper to do a certain amount of sets, for example, science says you should be doing 10 to 20 sets per body part per week. Perhaps on shoulders, very easy to do a lot of volume, and so you can do 20 sets a week. But perhaps on quads, you get sore very easily, and so 10 sets, all that you need. The thing you need to understand is you have to experiment. You have to do what's best for you. But Jeff makes several great points, pointing out that perhaps he could benefit by re-examining his training. If you don't look at what you're doing, you don't experiment, you don't make changes, how would you know you're training optimally?
Anatomy research tells us that the triceps are less than 4% of total body muscle, while the quads are, by far, the biggest muscle in the body at almost 30%.
And so it's important to understand this. Just because the triceps are only 4% of the muscle in the body and the legs about 30%, doesn't mean you need to train the legs that much more. Just because a muscle is bigger doesn't mean it needs more sets, and just because a muscle is smaller doesn't mean it needs fewer sets. And so think of it like this. If your quads are 5 times bigger than your biceps, should you do 5 times as many sets for your quads as your biceps? I don't think so. And so for the most part, 10 to 20 sets per muscle per week. And so I believe if you're an intermediate or advanced lifter, you do somewhere between 10 and 20 sets. Begin with 10. If you're experiencing growth and you're never sore, then try to do more, perhaps 11, 12. However, if you're sore, you're doing 20 sets a week, try and back off. Try doing 15 sets. If that works better, keep going. Experiment. 1 week, do more sets. The next week, do fewer sets and see which is best for you.
Also, Sam trains to failure 96% of the time, but almost all of his sets not taken to failure were for his forearms.
And so imagine this, 96 to 98% of Sam Sulek's training is done to failure. I don't believe that. I believe that Sam does not show every single set he does in his videos. Perhaps he's doing some sets with warm-ups. I certainly don't think he walks into a room and does a set to failure on every single exercise. Do you really think that he's actually training to failure 96 to 98% of the time? I don't believe it. And how would we truly know if it's failure? Even if you do a set and you stop and it appears to be failure, you said it was all out. Was it really? If there was a gun to your head, $1,000 per rep, someone screaming at you, go harder than last time. Could you have done more? Because if you could, you didn't actually train till failure.
Sam is obviously a big proponent of what he calls ego lifting, which is when you simply try to move the weight, allowing yourself to swing and sway rather than being really strict with your form.
And so first up, let's critique his training, his technique in particular. He doesn't go through a full range of motion on many of his exercises, and he likes to ego lift in the gym. The weights are very heavy and the rep range is into the lower end of the range spectrum. He's not quite doing 1 rep maxes, but going heavy enough that it could in fact lead to injury. And so when you're swinging weights, cheating the weight up, using improper lifting technique, the problem is it could very well lead to injury. The good news is training that way, it guarantees that you're training hard. He's cheating, he's going past failure, making sure that he's training hard. But if he ever gets injured or as he begins to get older and his joints can't handle this kind of training to failure and beyond, using very heavy weights in the gym, he could get injured more often than last time. Even a guy like Chris Bumstead, how many times has he been injured? Very, very dangerous.
For example, on the incline press here, he's stopping at least 3 or 4 inches away from his chest, which isn't the end of the world, but it isn't ideal. I'd rather see him strip the weight back and touch the bar to his chest.
Exactly. Rather than putting on 3 plates on each side on the incline bench, why not put 2.5 plates? Go all the way down. Pause on the bottom, feel the stretch, and press up on the way back. This will increase time under tension, which is also known as TUT, and allow you to build more muscle than last time.
Here on preacher curls, you can see that he's cutting out the bottom quarter of the range of motion where his biceps would be the most stretched.
And so based on science, for example, doing bicep curls, the bottom half of the rep more important than the top. And so why skip out on the most important part? I'll tell you why. Because of ego lifting. And so rather than throwing on more weight, when in doubt, use less weight and really stretch at the bottom. Control the weight. Don't ego lift in the gym.
The other thing we found in our study is that it's important to control the negative rather than just letting the weight free fall. So when it comes to controlling the negative, Sam gets a B+.
And so the eccentric, I keep saying to control the eccentric twice as slow as on the way up. Sam oftentimes just lets the bar go down. He's not controlling the weight. He's trying to use momentum. It's not that he's training horrible. It's just that he's focusing on training very hard with the expense of his form.
Overall, I'll give Sam a B grade on training technique.
And so overall, he's getting a B rating on his training technique. I'd give him a B-, slightly worse than that. I feel he's ego lifting in the gym a bit too much. He's not controlling the eccentric. He's just really focused on lifting the weight harder than last time. This clearly is working for him right now, but the danger is what happens in 10 years. All that wear and tear on the joints, ligaments, and so on, it could make him more susceptible for injury, and we certainly don't want that.
The next thing I quickly noticed is that Sam will more or less just completely wing his workouts. The problem with basing your workouts around whatever you're feeling that day is that it's really hard to guarantee that you're actually progressing.
Now, it's right what Jeff is saying. You need to progressive overload, but what I do believe is the vast majority of people are not going to structure out their programs exactly like 225 for 11 reps on the bench. I need to get this exact rep range. People just go to the gym and they want to have a good time and they want to go work out. If you're an IBU pro bodybuilder and you need everything to be on point perfect, absolutely you can hire a coach, have them do everything for you. But all you need to do is this. For the vast majority of people, 95% of people, go to the gym and try to train harder than last time. Whatever you did last day, try to go a little bit harder today. whatever it was, a little bit more. And so you absolutely can simply go to the gym and wing it. I wing it all the time. I pick an exercise and say, I'm going to do that right now. Somebody's sitting on that bench press. I don't need it. I'm going to use the machine. But whatever you're doing, you're trying to train hard. You're challenging yourself every time you go to the gym. Now, if you have a specific training program where every week you're going up and you have a serious deload and you work your way up and it's specific reps, 5 sets of 5 and so on, yeah, absolutely, you need to write it down. But if you're just going there to get a good workout, a good pump and build some muscle, you don't need to worry about that. And your body, it's literally telling you what to do. Sometimes my legs are sore. I went and did my full body workout yesterday after riding my bike for an hour, and some muscles are more sore than others. My right biceps is a little bit sore. My legs were tired from doing a bike race. And so if I had it pre-programmed, I had to do this many sets of biceps, this many sets of quads, perhaps I'd be overtraining. But because I'm listening to my body, I'm going in, I'm saying, wow, my arm's kind of sore. Probably shouldn't train to failure. Let's go a little bit easier. And as far as the legs go, I'll do some squats, but nothing crazy. I'll do a little bit more than last time. I'm going to do 10 pounds more in the squat, but I'm not going to do as many sets. Why? Because my legs are sore from racing on a bike. And so the advantages of not having a program listed can oftentimes outweigh the advantages of having that workout program.
If you're just randomly switching exercises in and out, what'll happen is when it's time to hit that same exercise again, you end up just doing the same weight and the same reps that you did last time.
Or you train like Sam or like Coach Greg. Every exercise you do, you're going hard. Progressive overload, I'm going all up. Whatever I can do, I'm going to try to do it as best I can. I'm going to go to failure and we will beyond. But remember, I'm an advanced level trainer. Sam, also an advanced level trainer. And so if you're a beginner or perhaps intermediate level trainer like Jeff Nippard, you don't want to train that hard. You have to save some reps in the tank. You have a pre-programmed method. You do it like that. And remember, Jeff could be an advanced level trainer, but he doesn't want to push himself that hard. He wants to take it easy. He wants to go by the science. But listen, this is what my science says. If you've been training for years and you're training at failure and or beyond, you're holding yourself back. How many IFBB pros, professional bodybuilders and so on, are not training freaking hard? Not just to failure and beyond. Sam Sulek's doing it on, what did he say, 96% of the time? He's only 21. Imagine what an IFBB pro would do.
But for the most part, you do want to keep most of your exercises and most of your workouts the same for at least a month or two, so you can make sure that you're adding some weight or some reps to those exercises.
And so here's another point I'd like to make. And so I'd like to see what Jeff Nippard would think of this, because has anyone thought of this? When you're 48 years old like Coach Greg, or 58, or even 38, and you've trained your entire life, how could you possibly continue to progressive overload? You can't get stronger forever. Only Mike O'Hearn can continue to improve into his 50s. And so if I were to write programs down and said, I have to do one more rep or lift this much more than last time, I wouldn't actually be able to do it. Think of it. I bench pressed 529 pounds with a pause. I benched 405 for 15 reps. I can't bench 405 once. And so how am I to always progressive overload? Think of it, really. Can you actually get stronger every time? And so I can't. But what do? I try. I go to the gym and I push as hard as possible. And so rather than thinking I'm going to do 12 reps with whatever weight I picked last week, I'm thinking I'm going to go hard. Perhaps I'm going to go even slower today. I'm going to pause it longer. Rather than thinking I have to increase the weight or the reps, I think I'm going to increase the intensity. You can increase intensity without going heavier or without adding reps by slowly lowering the weight, using greater control and greater mind-muscle connection. That is how I train. I'm telling you, it's way harder than just upping the weight and going for an extra rep. Very easy to go for more reps. Look at Larry Wheels, 405 for 32 reps, but did he actually press the weight up more than halfway on any of them? Well, maybe the final two, but for the most part, it's just swinging weights up halfway off his chest. And so if you have a plan and you have to progressive load every single time, what eventually happens is your form is going to degrade. And why do I know this? Because I've coached thousands of athletes. When you're forced to try to meet the demands of a program and you can't do it, you find a different way. You might cheat that weight up a little, swing it a little bit farther. Don't touch your chest or don't lock the weight out. That is what happens when people meticulously follow certain training programs. They forget to train harder than last time and are only worried about getting the weight for those many reps. Sorry, telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
There's also an issue with junk volume. In this workout from January 21st, Sam did 13 sets for his chest, plus 2 drop sets.
And I 100% agree with Jeff here, saying if you do 13 sets for one body part in one day, it's just too much. After 6 or 8 sets, essentially you're just doing junk volume. You can't go to failure and or beyond for 10 plus sets in a workout and expect to make gains from those additional sets. After a while, enough is enough. And so, do you know what's better? To train more often. For example, if you train chest 2 or 3 times a week, you don't need to do as many sets. If you did 5 sets of chest 3 times a week, that would be 15 total sets for your chest. A lot better than, for example, if you do 15 sets of chest on one day and you only train chest once a week. And so one thing I like to tell people is try not to do those bro splits as often. Many times people are on a 5-day split. I'd much prefer people doing a 2 or 3-day split, or even train like me, the entire body on one single day. If you don't have a lot of time to go to the gym and you do your entire body twice a week, that's all you need. You're going to get 80% of the same muscle growth as if you trained every single day. And so if you're pressed for time, you can't go to the gym all the time, try training your entire body twice a week, 80% of the results as training 7 days a week. And so consider that. I'm not saying that training your entire body twice a week is better than training every single day, but you get 80% of the benefits with training far fewer days.
And I guess it's worth mentioning that probably 90+% of IFBB pros do follow the same split as Sam. So it could be that if you get to that unnaturally high level of muscular development, the rules change.
Exactly. If you're on anabolic steroids and you've been training for years and you're that jacked, you can train differently. Just because the science says you need to train a certain way, you have to consider what subjects were used to decide those principles. If they were all beginners in the gym, newbies, university soccer players, can you really apply those same principles to an IFBB pro on steroids who's 300 pounds of muscle? I don't think so.
Sam trains very hard. This is extremely important if your goal is to maximize muscle growth beyond the beginner stage. And I do think that simply training hard is more important than any of the previous stuff I talked about.
And so I agree with Jeff yet again. The fact that he trains very hard, such a positive thing. Training hard is more important than almost anything. If you go to the gym, you don't know what you're doing, but you train hard, you're going to get results. If you have the best training split in the world, the best sets, reps, progression, everything, deloads, all set up the best possible, perhaps you're coached by Coach Greg, Jeff Nippard, Mike Israel, you're not going to get the same benefits as if you had no clue what you're doing. You just show up and you train hard. You see somebody doing something, you copy them and you do it very hard. You're going to get better results.
Sam goes to failure a little too much for my taste. Like I said, Sam has done 460 sets so far this year, and 440 of them were all-out sets to failure.
When I go to the gym, I typically do 1 warm-up sets, and then I go balls to the wall on every set after that. And the benefit of that is that I don't have to do as many sets. Remember I said to do 10 to 20 sets per body part for any given exercise? I don't even do 10. I train so hard that doing 10 sets would be overtraining for me. So in a given week, I'm not even training my chest with 10 full sets. I don't need it. My sets are so grueling, so difficult. I train harder than last time. I don't need all that volume.
Given his preference for failure training and what seems to be adequate recovery, I'm going to go ahead and give Sam an A grade on effort.
Imagine only giving Sam an A for effort. 96% of his sets are to failure and or beyond. What does he have to do to get an 80 plus? Sam could do half of his sets this hard and still get an A plus. He's getting an A plus for effort.
Clearly, the majority of his training is coming from a moderate rep zone from 4 to 12 reps, and for hypertrophy, I think this is great.
And so Jeff says he believes his rep range is great. Personally, I would like to see it upped a little bit. The 4 to 7 rep range for building muscle size, to me, it's still heavy. When you're ego lifting and doing a set of 5, that is very dangerous. I would rather see more sets in that 8 to 15 repetition range and much fewer in the 0 to 8 range.
Sam clearly loves training. He's super consistent, he does exercises that he enjoys, and he has a good time in the gym.
And I 100% agree. Sam loves to train. You can see it. However, I don't count my eggs before they hatch. I've coached a number of athletes, bodybuilders, powerlifters in various sports, and sometimes they're very eager at the start. I mean, after all, let's face it, is it really hard for Sam to go and train harder than last time in the gym? He's going to the gym and he's making amazing progress. He's still growing. He's not only growing his fan base, he's also growing his muscles. But what happens when that stops? I don't care what supplements he's using or not using. Eventually, he's not going to put on 10 pounds of muscle per year. And so when he gets to the age of perhaps 25, 26, when he's struggling to put on muscle, is he still going to love it? Will he still have that same passion? I could say that about everyone. Will the Trent twins still be training in 10 years, 20 years? Will they still be alive? Having to go to the hospital for overdoing caffeine, training very heavy, very risky, will that last forever? I, for one, can say I started training at 10, I absolutely loved it, and I'm still training very passionately at 48. Will they be the same? Only time will tell. Of course, I hope they will. Many people, they, for example, love bodybuilding. After a few years, they're sick of it. They don't even want to watch a competition. And so my advice, if you're abusing performance-enhancing drugs, thinking you're going to be the next big bodybuilder, bikini superstar, and so on, think twice. Think again. Reconsider it. How do you know you'll still love it in even 5 years?
And Sam clearly has that mastered, and he gets an A++ for sustainability and enjoyment.
Do you really think he deserves an A++ for something he enjoys that he can do for the rest of his life? Training to failure, struggling with the weight, ego lifting, it's not something you can do forever. He's eventually going to get injured. He's not going to be able to do it. And so my advice would be for him to make some changes, some adjustments to make the lifting more safe, less risky on his body, less likely to get injured. At that point, and only then, would I give him an A+ rating.
Even though there are areas that could be more optimized, I personally rank sustainability and enjoyment and effort so highly that his high score there does boost his overall grade from me.
I don't understand, Jeff. Sustainability. Training 96% of your sets to failure. How is that sustainable? Wait till he gets injured. When he's injured, not going to be able to train. How is that sustainable? Last I checked, when you're injured from ego lifting in the gym, how are you going to keep training? What if he goes to the gym and tears a pec bench pressing to failure? Is that going to be sustainable? And so I would have given him a C for sustainability. This, it's not sustainable.
I used MacroFactor myself for all of 2023 to cut 30 pounds of fat, and now I'm using the app to guide my bulk for 2024.
And so I just heard Jeff say that he lost 30 pounds of fat. That means, considering he was under 200 pounds, that he dropped his body fat by over 15%. Does anyone remember Jeff getting fat? I'm sorry, but if you lost 30 pounds of fat, then at one point you were fat. And I did notice in a video, he said he was 25% body fat. Is that actually true? Jeff was at 25% body fat? That's literally obese. And so let me know in the comment section, does anyone think that Jeff actually went from 25% body fat to 8% body fat? Is he really that lean right now? And was he really fat back then?
You can scan the QR code over here next to my head if you want to try it out for yourself for 2 weeks for free.
And of course, scan Jeff Nippard's QR code if you're interested in getting some help from him with his app to help you track your calories. I can't wait to discover more about his 25% to 8%. That's truly remarkable. Never knew he had gained that much body fat. And if you want help on your journey and you're not a teenager, you can consider Acti Builder and or Turk Builder, and of course, GO2 Max. We also have other things like creatine and protein powders, pre-workouts, and so on. You can get all of those on my website. Code Greg, 15% off. Click the link in the description. Also, the cookbook, the Circle Diet book, training book. We have all the books, PDF hard copy on the website, 15% off. Code Greg. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Watch one of those 2 bloops over there. And until next time, don't forget about the coaching plans by me and my team. And until next time, I am out.